In the bitter Wisconsin winter of 1873, the chimneys of Milwaukee's German Quarter coughed smoke into the grey sky. Ice cracked under carriage wheels. Horses snorted clouds into the frozen air. And in a narrow brick home behind St. Peter's Church, a girl sat unmoving at a frosted window, counting the people who passed. Emma Richter didn't blink. She didn't smile. Her lips moved silently as she counted. 12 men, 3 women, 6 children. 1 cat, 7 steps from the bakery to the post. She wrote each number in her journal. Emma was 11 years old, born on the Atlantic during a storm her mother, Greta, claimed was God's test. Emma arrived early, barely breathing, and didn't cry for nearly a week. Her father Heinrich, a stern Bavarian brewmaster, thought a delay in speech was a sign of slowness, but Emma wasn't slow. She was watching. At 4, she mimicked entire conversations word for word. At 5, she told Greta the exact time the bread would burn 3 minutes before the oven belched smoke. At 7, she calculated the number of steps from their home to the brewery and back, and never got it wrong, even after snow changed the shape of the road. But no one was afraid, not yet. Milwaukee's German Quarter in the 1870s was tight, knit. Families knew each other's names and sins. Emma was tolerated as an oddity, the way some children are gifted with music or drawing. Emma simply had a head for numbers. She never played with other children. She never laughed, but she was polite, soft-spoken, distant, and always observing. Then came January 12th, 1873. The morning began as it always did. Snow, silence, and the sound of Father Collar's bell calling sinners to prayer. Emma sat by the window. At 8:14 a.m. she turned to her mother and said, "Mr. Dietrich will die at 2:14 p.m. Greta froze. "Emma, don't say such things. He's changed his walking pattern." Emma said quietly, 17 steps between the cooperage and the pub instead of 20. His pace is slower, left foot dragging, his breath rate is irregular. Greta slapped the table. "You don't speak of death, Emma, not like that." But Emma had already written it in her journal. Dietrich, irregular rhythm, brown bottle increase, 12% deviation. Fatal event expected at 2:14 p.m. Location, malt room. At 2:14 p.m. Mr. Dietrich collapsed while stirring mash. Dead before he hit the floor. The coroner said heart failure. The neighbors said nothing, but they began to look at Emma differently. A week later, Emma told the grocer's wife not to light a stove at 5:00 p.m. "There's too much gas in the line," she said. "It will detonate. Time of risk, 5:02 p.m. The wife told her husband. He laughed. At 5:03 p.m. the kitchen wall exploded. No one died, but 2 children were badly burned. When people asked how Emma could have known, she merely said, "There was a hiss. It started 2 days ago. It grew louder by 7.3%. Dr. Mueller, the district physician, requested an interview. He was a curious man, skeptical of superstition. He believed in nerves, diet, the balance of humors. He expected Emma to be a child playing pretend, perhaps suffering from hysteria. But when he met her, she was calm. "I know your wife's lover," Emma said as he took her pulse. He froze. "She buys saffron for meals he prefers. Your shirts smell of wood smoke. His don't. There are scratches on your neck from someone who bites her nails." Mueller stared. Emma wrote in her journal. He didn't deny it. Correlation 97%. Next session unlikely. Mueller left without a word and did not return. By February, Emma's predictions were local legend. She stopped walking in public. People crossed the street to avoid her. Children whispered rumors that Emma could see the devil, that her eyes turned black when she spoke in tongues, that she dreamed of people dying and then watched it happen. But Emma did not dream, she recorded. She noticed smoke patterns. She noticed which men paused outside which windows. She watched for changes in breath, posture, purchase habits, even footprints in the snow. She recorded time of day, scent, shadow length, ambient temperature. Her journal, a stitched leather book with numbers burned into the spine, became her obsession. No page was wasted. It had columns: name, behavior, deviation, risk percentage, result. On March 1st she wrote, Mrs. Weber, multiple perfume changes. Mr. Kellner, new cravat, late brewery exits. Predicted confrontation March 3, 7:41 p.m. Violence likely, 3 broken ribs, 83% chance of bloodshed. Probability confirmed, and it was. Emma's parents grew desperate. Greta wept. Hinrich drank. They tried locking the journal. She started a new one. They tried keeping her inside. She took to the attic window, watching through glass. Hinrich beat her once. She didn't cry. She wrote, pain response minimal, parental control ineffective, emotional deviation, father 6%, mother 14%, prediction, abandonment within 4 months if trend continues. Doctor, Mueller returned briefly in April. Emma greeted him without blinking. There's going to be a fire. He frowned. Where? Zimmerman House, April 8, 8:47 p.m. He's mixing spirits and lamp oil. His chimney is angled wrong by 7 degrees. Mueller paled. Emma added, structural flaw plus increased consumption plus absence of wife equals high probability, 96%. The fire burned 3 homes. Zimmerman died. Mueller left the city that week, and still Emma watched. But now she started asking questions of her own. Why do people lie? She asked her father. Because they're weak. He muttered, but lying is inefficient. She replied, truth is pattern. Pattern is truth. Without it, systems fail. One cold night, Emma woke her mother. I had a new thought. Greta stirred, half asleep. Emma, I can track patterns. I can track behavior. But if I adjust conditions, I can change them. Greta sat up. Emma smiled for the first time in weeks. If I say the right thing at the right time, I can move people like numbers on a board. In April of 1873, the last frost clung to the windows like a dying breath, but the fear inside Milwaukee's German quarter had only grown sharper. Emma Richter no longer simply observed. She tested. She had discovered something terrible. Not only could she read the rhythms of life, she could manipulate them. It started with Mrs. Brennan, a lonely widow, quiet and devout, who lived across from the Richters. She baked in silence, sewed alone, and took long, solemn walks by the river every Friday after market. Emma noted the change when she skipped her walk. One missed routine, then another. The following Monday, Emma approached her mother in the kitchen. Mrs. Brennan is going to jump into the river, she said flatly. It will happen Wednesday, between 6:12 and 6:18 p.m. Greta dropped the plate she was holding. Don't you say things like that. Emma looked unbothered. I'll stop it, if you want me to. Greta's face turned white. Stop it, how? Emma tapped her journal. There's a man, Mr. Elias from the bakery. He'll be passing at 6:14 p.m. If I tell him to take flowers to his sister early, he'll pass the riverbank at 6:13 instead. He'll see her. She'll pause. She might not jump. Greta stared. How do you know? Emma replied, because if I say it, it will happen. On Wednesday, Mr. Elias left the bakery earlier than usual. He passed the riverbank at 6:13 p.m. He saw Mrs. Brennan. She was standing on the ledge. She stepped down before jumping. When asked why, she only whispered, someone saw me. Emma wrote, 3rd, party visibility altered emotional state. Result, deviation prevented. Behavioral model expanding. From that day on, Emma experimented. She altered outcomes using words, nudges, changes in timing. She told children where to walk so they'd avoid broken glass. She warned a neighbor to skip his morning pipe to prevent a coughing fit that would have led to a fall. At first, it seemed noble, but it didn't last, because Emma stopped waiting for deviations. She started creating them. She asked her father strange questions. What would happen if a man thought his wife was unfaithful? Heinrich growled. He'd confront her, and if she wasn't, then he'd be a fool. Emma watched, wrote, emotion is manipulable. Information true or false yields control. A week later, Mr. Schwarz struck his wife in the middle of the market square. He screamed about a man from the tannery, about perfume, about betrayal. It was all false. Only Emma knew the source. She had whispered to Mr. Schwarz the pattern of purchases, the timings, the missed meals. He believed her. Now the neighborhood was truly afraid. Children were forbidden to speak to her. Father Koller denounced her from the pulpit. He called her an instrument of darkness, a child of order in a world built on divine mystery. Emma listened from her attic window. She made note of his tone, of the crowd's response, of the minutes between each amen. Then she closed the journal and wrote, religious influence waning, community fear increasing, risk of escalation, 91%. By May, her predictions became too precise to ignore. She uncovered an illicit operation in the brewery, men stealing beer, falsifying records, laundering coin through silent buyers in Chicago. Emma had charted it all, times, routes, schedules. She even deduced the storage method based on the change in Mr. Kleiner's gait favoring the left knee from carrying barrels too often. She told her father, Ernst Kellner is stealing from you, and others. Heinrich blanched, you're a child. Don't say such things. Emma leaned forward. He knows I know. Heinrich looked at her. How could he possibly? He stood outside for 17 minutes. Twice. He looked at the window. He smoked 2 cigarettes instead of 1. His breath rate changed. He's thinking about how to stop me. Heinrich said nothing. Emma added, probability of violent retaliation is 84%. Window 72 hours. That night, a stone crashed through the front window. No one saw who threw it. But Greta woke to Emma standing beside the broken glass, barefoot and calm. They're coming. It was Dr. Mueller who helped them flee. After the Zimmermann fire, he had quietly researched Emma's claims. He'd found her notes to be horrifyingly accurate. She tracked data with the precision of an engineer. A mind that observed not emotionally, but architecturally, seeing people as systems of inputs and outputs. When he heard about the Kellner prediction, he arrived at their door with a carriage. We go tonight, he said. They left everything behind, even Emma's journals except one. They arrived in New Ulm, Minnesota, under false names. Heinrich took a job in a modest brewery. Greta sewed. Emma stayed indoors, but she still watched. She began again, counting, tracking, testing. In June, she told a boy he would lose a finger in 4 days. He did crushed by a barrel he loaded alone, something he never did before. Why did he load it? Because Emma had told him his father was watching and he wanted to impress him. She had changed his pattern. Emma no longer smiled. She spoke less and less, but her journal grew thick. She filled pages with numbers, sketches, diagrams of behavior. Feedback loops, emotion arcs. She began mapping not just individuals, but entire households. She wrote, if I model the behavior of 43 people, I can predict the behavior of 4000 human behavior scales. Her mother begged her to stop. Her father took her journal once. She didn't speak for 3 days. On the 4th, she whispered, you should check the west wall of the brewery. He did. Termites, structural weakness, risk of collapse. Her father gave the journal back. In August, the Milwaukee theft ring was exposed. Kellner was arrested. 3 of the 7 men involved died, 1 by suicide, 1 vanished, 1 burned in a suspicious stable fire. Emma predicted it all. She even told Dr. Mueller which of the 7 would die and in what order. She was right. Then Emma did something strange. She asked for a map, a large one, not of New Ulm, of the entire country. She marked cities. She began tracking news, outbreaks, migrations, wars, accidents. She circled Chicago, St. Louis, Baltimore. She wrote, variables larger, systems bigger. I can learn them. I can move them. Dr. Mueller asked her, why Emma? She looked up from her journal and said, if you see the rhythm, you can predict the storm. But if you understand the rhythm, you can become the storm. By early autumn of 1873, the cold returned to Minnesota. The Richters kept to themselves, still haunted by the shadows of Milwaukee. Heinrich worked long hours. Grete barely left the house, but Emma had only grown more focused. She no longer just watched patterns. She began to shape them. Emma kept 2 journals now. One was for observation, raw data, routines, trends. The other was for manipulation. She called it the feedback ledger. Each page held a name. Beside it, actions taken, outcomes measured, adjustments for next attempt. Mr. Dolman, suggested wife was unfaithful. Observed response, alcohol increase, church absence, work delay. Prediction confirmed. Emotional volatility up 13%. Trust threshold broken. Next phase, self-isolation. She did not do it to be cruel. She was trying to prove something, that human behavior, when modeled with enough precision, could be controlled. Her mother noticed changes. Emma rarely spoke aloud. When she did, her words were measured like a scientist recording lab results, not a child speaking from instinct. One night, Grete entered Emma's room with a bowl of soup. She found Emma standing still, eyes fixed on a calendar. "Emma?" she asked gently. Emma didn't look away. "December 19, she said. "What about it?" "It will be the end of something." Grete's fingers tightened on the bowl. "Emma, please. Stop. Just stop." Emma turned to face her. "I can't. The numbers are already moving." The family began to receive letters, anonymous, threatening, "Your daughter is a danger. Don't bring your curse here. The devil sees through her." No one signed them. But Emma already knew. She analyzed handwriting, postage timing, ink usage, 6 authors, 2 households, 5 women, 1 man, intent, fear, isolation, next escalation likely, public action. She was right. In mid-October, during Sunday Mass, Father Brummel stopped his sermon to address Emma by name. "Emma Richter," he said from the pulpit, "you carry knowledge not meant for man. The Lord gives light through mystery, but your light blinds, and blindness leads to ruin." The church fell silent. Emma stared ahead. Later, Grete wept. Heinrich shouted. Emma returned to her room and wrote, "Religious authority openly declares adversarial stance. Community alignment shifting. Isolation. 82% complete. Total expulsion. Probable. Dr. Mueller returned in November. He had followed her writings, quietly collecting letters, testimonies, and notes from frightened neighbors. He asked Emma what she wanted. Clarity, she said, and replication. He frowned. Replication. If I can control one community, I can control others. Mueller sat down hard. "You're not a child anymore." "No." Emma agreed. "I don't think you were ever just a child." Emma proposed an experiment. She wanted to model a city's emotion, not just people. Emotion as a collective organism. She mapped New Ulm by hand, family ties, church influence, business pressure, weather shifts, illness frequency. She called it the system model. "If I push the right variables," she said, "the whole city will lean." Mueller was horrified. You want to manipulate an entire town. Emma blinked slowly, not for cruelty, for understanding. Understanding what? How many lies it takes to collapse a truth. She began with small nudges. She told a young man his employer didn't trust him. Within days, he was fired after a misplaced ledger. She suggested to a shopkeeper that his supplier was cheating him. He changed vendors, disrupting 3 connected businesses. She fed each spark with subtle comments, creating a wildfire of suspicion. People grew wary. Businesses closed earlier. Church sermons turned defensive. The city leaned. Then she stopped, just for a moment. She recorded everything. City tension plus 17%. Commercial breakdown plus 6%. Trust index falling. Panic threshold in 14 days if model continues. Margin for control, slim. Mueller begged her to stop. This isn't theory anymore, Emma. You're hurting people. She looked at him and asked, "What do you call a medicine that causes pain before it cures?" He couldn't answer. Then something unexpected happened. Emma was followed. She noticed it immediately, the same man, 3 days in a row, standing near the butcher's stall. His breath too calm, his shoes polished despite mud. She approached him. "You're not from here," she said. He smiled. "Neither are you." His name was Mr. Lang. He claimed to be a writer from Boston. Said he was researching gifted children. Asked about her early life, her predictions, her methods. Emma answered very little, but she watched him closely, the way he moved, the way he never looked directly at mirrors, the way his questions followed her journal entries he had no way of seeing. After their third meeting, Emma wrote, "Mr. Lang equals observer. Pattern indicates covert study. Alignment with external force. Possible retrieval attempt." She went to Dr. Mueller. "He's not here for research. He's here for me." 3 days later, Mr. Lang was gone. His room emptied overnight. No bags, no books. Only one thing was left. A page torn from Emma's original journal, the one she had hidden in Milwaukee, folded neatly under her pillow. She wrote only one word that day, threat. From that moment, Emma changed again. She began to isolate herself completely, refused meals, slept during the day, wrote at night. She began to draw not just people and maps, but symbols, old ones, curves, spirals, lines of numbers she called inherited frequencies. When Mueller asked what they meant, she said, "I think I've been wrong. This isn't human. It's older than that. I just understand it better than others." Mueller asked, "Understand what?" She whispered, "The structure behind choice." By December, the snow in New Ulm had blanketed the town in white silence, but inside the Richter house, the air was tight with tension. Emma spoke even less now. Her notebooks multiplied, stacked in towers on her windowsill and under her bed. Symbols crept across the margins, geometric spirals, fractals, and mirrored alphabets no one else understood. She stopped tracking people. She started tracking events. Her calculations changed in nature. Less about behavior, more about probability, sequence, reaction. Hinrich found one page with a title written in block letters. Causality loops and disruption points of the formulas underneath made no sense to him. He asked her what they were. Emma only said, "I think I found the root variable." Hinrich slapped the page from her hands. "You are talking like a lunatic." Emma picked it up, calm. "Numbers don't go mad, father. They simply follow rules." That night, she locked her door. She taped handwritten notes to her window, not for others to read, but for herself. They read, "Watch the variables, not the people. Control the cascade before the threshold. If Lang comes again, initiate collapse protocol. Doctor." Mueller noticed her gaze had changed. She no longer looked at people, she looked through them. He asked her gently if she was all right. She replied, "They thought I was unnatural because I could see patterns." Mueller nodded. She added, "But what if I'm not seeing them?" He paused. "Then what are you doing?" Emma smiled faintly. What if I'm remembering them? Mueller began to worry that Emma had slipped too far into her own world. But she still spoke clearly, still recorded facts, still anticipated events with precision. Then came December 19, the date she had circled months ago. That morning, Emma told her mother not to leave the house. Why? Greta asked. Because if you do, it will start, Emma said. Greta didn't press. She was too tired, but Emma was right. At 12:14 p.m., an explosion rocked the grain mill. A boiler rupture. 3 men killed. It shook the city. Emma stood at the window and wrote in her journal. Sequence initiated. That night, 5 more events occurred. A sudden illness swept through a tenement building. A local priest was caught in scandal. The telegraph lines to St. Paul failed. A shipment of grain was misrouted, leaving 3 shops without supply, and someone, somewhere, broke into the church and left a crude drawing of Emma's symbol on the altar. The town fell into whispers and suspicion. Mueller stormed into the Richter home. What did you do? Emma looked up from her notes. I created the loop. Now I'm watching the collapse. Mueller stared at her, horrified. You're playing God? Emma shook her head slowly. No, God creates from chaos. I reveal the structure beneath it. That night, a knock came at their door. 3 times. Emma didn't open it. She simply said, Lang. The next morning, footprints were found outside the house. No one saw who left them, but someone had drawn Emma's spiral in the snow. Mueller urged the family to flee again, but Emma refused. There's nowhere else to go. It's not about where I am, it's about when. He didn't understand. Until she showed him her final journal entry. Every person, every city, every year all follow the same arcs. I was born knowing one cycle. Now I see them all. Mueller whispered, You're saying this has happened before. Emma nodded. And I think next time I won't need to be born at all. Mueller fled the next day. He left a letter behind for Heinrich and Greta. Your daughter is not possessed. She's not broken. She's not even wrong. She's simply ahead, impossibly ahead, and the world will never catch up. On December 22, Emma Richter vanished. There was no sign of struggle, no footprints, no body, no blood. Only her final journal left on the floor, open to the last page. The year after Emma vanished, the town of New Ulm spoke of her name only in hushed fragments. No search party was ever organized. No body was found. The sheriff made quiet inquiries only to be visited by 2 men in long coats from the east. After that, all investigation ceased. By spring, the snow had melted. So had the fear, but Emma's notebooks, the one she left behind, spread like a virus. It was Mueller who passed the journal to a mathematics professor in Chicago. The man called it the most advanced statistical modeling he'd ever seen. He assumed the author was a prodigy, a man in his 40s, maybe 50s. When Mueller told him it was written by a girl who vanished at age 12, the professor grew pale. He burned the copy within the week. But copies were made. 3 were smuggled to Europe. 1 ended up at a military academy in Virginia. The final version, strangely, ended up in the hands of a woman named Elizabeth Richter, a distant cousin in Pennsylvania, who reportedly fainted upon reading it. When she awoke, she whispered, she wasn't the first. She won't be the last. Rumors resurfaced that in a boarding school in Vermont, a child named Anna Hessel began drawing spirals on the walls and counting the students' breaths. That in a hospital in Prague, a girl named Magdalena spoke in numbers during seizures and predicted a building collapse to the second. That in southern Spain, an orphan named Emilia R. created a code no adult could decipher, but that other children seemed to understand. Each child disappeared before their 13th birthday. Each left behind a journal. Each signed it E. R. Mueller spent the rest of his life tracking these appearances. He followed spirals carved into stone. He followed coincidences that defied statistics. He followed patterns in wars, plagues, panics, always finding the fingerprints of a mind that shouldn't have existed anymore. He died in 1907, alone in his study, surrounded by newspaper clippings and maps covered in Emma's symbols. His last entry, scrawled in trembling hand, "The loops are tightening. She is getting faster." She remembers, "Today, in university libraries across Europe, there are whispers of the Richter code, a lost cipher said to predict economic trends, socio-political collapse, even personal death. Some say it's buried in the numbers of obscure census reports. Others claim it's embedded in historical train schedules, birth records, or rainfall patterns. But the most disturbing theory, that the code isn't hidden in the data. It is the data that Emma or something using her memory has been rewriting the rhythm of the world for over a century. Some say she was a child genius. Others believe she was something older, something trying to remember itself through human minds, reborn over and over. A pattern, a loop, a structure behind choice in Milwaukee during a renovation of a historic brewery building. A leather journal was found behind a crumbling wall. Inside, charts of brewery workers' routines, predictions of firings, illnesses, deaths, behavioral mapping of dozens of 19th century citizens, and a final page dated 1873, signed, "Reset initiated. When the pattern is complete, I will no longer need to be born."